I'd like to call to order the Monday, November 14th, 2016 Charter Township of Oxford Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting. Everyone please stand to pay respects to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, please note the roll.
Noted.
Next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Any changes, modifications? If not, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda for the Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting of November 14th, 2016.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moving on to the approval of our minutes from our regular meeting of September 12th, 2016. There's only one item that I found in the, I think Indianwood Road is one word, not two. That's under regular business, third line, or second line. This is 118 Indianwood. Board Member Rosner, you had a
Yeah, the only thing I would like to add is either in the first paragraph of regular business or on the second page about the public comment, is to add in there verbiage that makes it clear that this is a continuation of the previous one where the public did speak. So we could either add it after it says, where are we at here, wall signs in non-residential district. You know, this is a continuation from the, and then mention the previous meeting, whatever date that was August, I don't even remember.
August the 15th.
Yeah.
Was what the meeting was.
Yeah, from the August 15th meeting, or back on where it says no public comment, reference it there, comma, this is a continuation. Because there was public comment, it was just done at the first section of that. And we had kind of closed the public comment and moved on to the next phase, so I just don't want it to be misleading. So I don't know what the best way to accomplish that is. I know I'm just looking.
I'm not either. I'm not sure how to
Years
make
from
that
now, if
read.
somebody were to pick it up.
It references August 15th meeting. That is the continuation.
Yeah, it's farther down. I'm just wondering if there's a way to just, where it says no public comment, it just kind of throws, to me, it just throws the whole thing, because there really was public comment. There just wasn't public comment at this particular meeting. There was extensive public comment at the previous one.
But it was this meeting that the minutes are on. So there was no public comment.
That's what the record's supposed to reflect, right?
Well, there wasn't any.
Right.
I wasn't
Yeah.
there, so I'm assuming there wasn't any.
There wasn't.
But in our decision, we based our vote and everything on the entire process, including the public comment from before.
But the last minutes depict, on the same topic, the public comment would be on that, right?
Yeah, the public comments are on that. I'm just looking
I
if
just
somebody...
don't think you need to do that, because it goes meeting by meeting. I know what you're saying, but it just goes, that'd be adding something in that didn't happen at that meeting.
I would even have to say that no public comment was added at this meeting.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Or no public comment was given at this meeting.
Or no new comments.
Yeah, I mean, just on the second page where it says no public comment, just say no public comment was given at this meeting.
You want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I would move to make that addition to the minute.
Any support on that?
I would second that.
Second. So for the record, you're going to add specifically the language?
Yeah.
What do you want to add?
Yes, was added at this meeting.
Got that, Deanna? Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Moving on to public item comments not on this evening's agenda. So from the public who wishes to make comment on something not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close that portion and move on to our regular business. First item on the agenda for this evening is 7A, ZBA 008.16, a proposed addition to an existing garage, parcel 0428 106 009. Address is 1475 John Paul Court, Oxford, Michigan, 48371. The subject property is located in R1 zoning district, lot number 53 of Mickelson's Peninsula Estates. The applicant is James and Tanya Severs. Address 1475 no, I won't put St. John Paul Court, Oxford, Michigan, 48371. The approval of this application as submitted would require a variance in accordance with zoning ordinance 67A, Article 3.7, Schedule of Regulations. There's a procedure we do follow, so I just want to outline that before we go forward. The applicant will make a statement. We'll open the public hearing. We'll take comments and questions from the public. We'll close the public hearing. We'll take any board administration comments or building administration comments. Board members will have a question and comments. We'll go through a finding of fact. There'll be a motion. There'll be a board member discussion and comment, and then finally there'll be a vote. So is the applicant here for the first item? Good evening.
Good evening, Board.
Tell us what you're looking for.
Oh, well, we wanted to put a small addition onto the back of our home and then extend our current garage a little bit due to our in-laws getting a little bit older. They live on Drummond Island, they can't sell the home, and they're approximately 80 years old, so they're going to live with us. We just wanted a little more room for them to live comfortably. So with that in mind, on one side, we're asking for approximately 1 foot, and on the other side, it goes over approximately 18 inches. So we submitted the correct paperwork to the board, and then received a letter from Matthew Stater, and it seems that because we're our odd-shaped lot, we are going over a little bit, therefore asking for a variance on the setbacks.
So you're asking for a variance for what appears to be a garage addition, and that's for 18 inches? Is that correct?
Yes, and then on the back of the home, the setback, it goes into the setback approximately 1 foot off the back of the house.
So you're adding an addition off the back, okay.
Correct.
Which will require another 1 foot.
Correct.
So we're asking for a variance of the side yard of 1.5 feet for the garage and 1 foot for the addition.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add for the board?
No, it seems like the information's there. If that suffices with you, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, 7:11, I would like to open the public hearing. Anyone from the public that'd like to come forward and make a comment regarding this item, please come forward. Come forward and please state your name and your address for the record.
John Kasorik, and we live at 1410 Harwood Drive.
Yes, sir.
Jim and Tanya's neighbors,
Which side are you on, to the east or the west?
east side.
East side.
Back
So you would be
next
affected
house
by the addition
in the back.
in the back. Okay, thank you.
I have one question before I tell you my vote. When the house was built back in the 80s, I don't know the exact year of that, were the setback requirements different from what the setback requirements are now?
It was an R1, and it's what, a 10-foot side yard now? Kelly, do you
Yeah,
have
it's
any
a 10-foot.
recollection of what that might have been, Sue?
Our side yard hasn't changed much. since
Everything
this-
changes, so I can't say that it didn't change.
Yeah,
Yeah, because at one time it would have conformed, obviously.
definitively, but I know from the 70s on, it hasn't changed much.
There is an encroachment, and if you look at the sketch provided.
Right.
There are 1, 2, 3 encroachments.
Yeah, the house, as it currently stands right now, seems to be, have been built off of different setbacks.
Yeah, I can't answer your questions definitively. The ordinance does change over time. Sometimes they get more stringent. So I was,
Seeing it this way, it would appear.
it would appear, given that there are so many encroachments right now as it currently exists, I would think that it would have had to have met some sort of variance or some sort of ordinance requirement.
That's where.
Or it wouldn't have been approved.
Or if the builder just went ahead and built it.
I can't say that doesn't happen either, but yeah.
Okay, as far as my vote goes, I vote yes, let them build it.
Okay.
I mean, we're good friends. leave it at that.
Fair enough, fair enough. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, good. I'm Janet Poppy, and I live at 1487 John Paul Court, and we're their immediate neighbors to the west.
Okay, thank you.
We have no objection.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:14 and move on to any administrator and board comments, building comments. There's a letter in our packet from our planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman, dated the 24th of October. I think we've all had the opportunity to review that. And in there, they state that this house currently, because of its setbacks, is a legally non-conforming situation. They did review it, and they thought that provisions, not particular, were due to peculiar circumstances, an odd-shaped lot. In their opinion, practical difficulty does exist, and that granting a dimensional variance would do substantial justice to the applicants. Mr. Walters, how are you? Good. Moving on to board member questions and comments. Any questions or comments from the board members?
Definitely an odd-shaped lot. I was even having a hard problem because it's got like double frontage,
Yes.
you know, 'cause opposite the front is the rear, so double frontage kind of has two rears. I was even trying to figure out where the rear yard setbacks were with this. It was,
It's really more towards the lake is where the rear would be.
yeah, it was very hard
Yeah.
to,
This is obviously the opposite. The front is the side and the rear, yeah, I would agree.
yeah, definitely one of the more unusual shaped ones. And it's not that it's a small lot, it's just kind of a odd shape.
Yeah, and, I think there was some intent to obviously set the house back far enough to potentially in the future do something at least with that garage. It looks like they made that attempt, but again, not knowing what the setback would have been at the time that was approved.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
Any other comments? Okay, moving on to our findings of fact. Pursuant to section 17.8C, in reviewing the request for a variance, the following standards for determining practical difficulty shall be considered, with no single factor being determinative. Strict compliance with the restrictions governing area setback, frontage, height, bulk, density, and other non-use manners will unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or render ordinance conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Comments from the board? Apply, doesn't apply?
To me, it's not the strongest reason. I mean, it kind of argument both ways on that.
Mr. Bailey, any comments?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes both ways. I mean, there's not much they can do over here without messing up the lines of the house.
Yeah, I would agree, and, the setbacks are what the setbacks are. They were determined at one point in time.
The same argument goes both ways. You
Right,
could either
it
say
does.
it's a foot, we'll take a foot off the garage, the addition. It's kind of, that one
I would
is
agree.
not weighted the highest priority for me on this one.
All right, number two, the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. Obviously, that applies. Will do justice to them. The adjacent property owners, obviously, they're somewhat in compliance with that, and they're okay with what's going on. Not that that's a factor for determining a variance, but it does help us. A lesser variance than what is being requested will not give substantial relief to the applicant and not be more consistent with justice to other property owners. And there is a lesser variance, obviously, making the garage smaller, but there's certain dimensions it has to be. It would make it odd, and the shape of it would be irregular and inconsistent, and it looks like the addition that they're putting in is being respectful of the adjacent homeowner to the east, instead of putting something up to block their view of the lake. They seem to be pretty cognizant of that. Any other comments related to that?
No, I would agree.
The need for the variance is due to unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not generally applicable in the area or to other properties in the same zoning district.
That one I'd say is my most it's a strong opinion when I look at this. It's definitely an odd shape, and there isn't a whole lot of other ways they could go and still be able to get in to the driveway. Either way they go, they're gonna be non-conforming. I mean, the house is already larger than some of the existing ones, but it's so close in scale to what ordinance is asking for, I don't have a problem with it.
Mr. Bailey?
I think without changing the roof lines, the foundation lines, I mean, there's really nothing else they can do.
Ms. Bellers, any comments?
No, really, I agree with, what was already said, and I agree with Callie about this would be the one that it's not the property is different.
Yeah, the geometry of the property is very peculiar. It's different than
I mean, you
most
could take
that are in the
the other
area.
way and say, well, they don't have to do this, but
Right.
they can fit in their property, but I don't think it's detrimental to anything.
I would agree.
I think in scale, it's not asking for
Right.
what's different in the neighborhood. The garage size is gonna be comparable to what else is there. It's not gonna stand out as being.
Doesn't appear to be
overly
blocking
different.
anybody's view.
No,
or-
I would agree. And finally, the problem and the resulting need for the variance has not been self-created by the applicant or the applicant's predecessor. Obviously, they purchased the house in 2000s. The house was built in the 90s, so they didn't create this. At one point in time, obviously, the house would have been conforming. It's right now currently legally non-conforming.
Right. I think that's the biggest factor here, is that there's nowhere that can go without being non-conforming.
Yeah, and again, it's what they're asking for. I don't think is unreasonable. They're not pushing themselves the limits of the envelope or doing something that's out of character with the neighborhood, so.
I agree.
All right.
Yeah, you're only talking 1.5 feet at the largest.
Yeah, 1.5 feet, 18 inches at the largest. I don't think that's out of scale. All right, with that, a motion is in order.
Okay, well, I'll make it then. I would move that ZBA 008.16 for the property located at 1475 John Paul Court be approved for a variance of 1.5 feet on the, calling it the front,
West.
the west, okay,
West
we'll call
side
it the west side yard setback, to be constructed to match the drawings submitted. That will be dated and left in the packet. And that is based on our discussion and findings of fact.
Do you want to do them singularly or both together? There's another variance.
Okay, yeah, we're
they're
going to do
asking
the same thing for both. So you said the west side yard and the east
for. Rear side.
rear. That's why I kept saying, which one is
East
rear?
rear.
I started with rear.
Rear.
Yeah. And the rear side yard setback to also comply with what has been submitted in the plan.
Do a motion?
That was the motion.
That's the motion. We have a motion.
Second,
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? With that, we'll roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Bailey?
Yes.
Tina's all here. Butler?
Yes.
Rosner, yes. Walters?
Abstain.
He abstained. Abstained.
Did you announce at the meeting? Oh, I didn't hear,
He abstained. He wasn't here for the whole discussion.
based on the fact that you weren't here.
Correct.
I don't know if our bylaw let that, does it?
I don't know.
I believe if you're going to abstain, you have to do it like at the beginning or when you first come in, and then
I
we have...
wasn't here for the discussions,
Okay.
so I'm abstaining.
All right, and Bellers?
Motion passes. You have your variance.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
I wasn't trying to give you a hard time, I was just trying to think if there was like, how that would withstand our bylaws, like, okay, that went through me.
All right. Moving on to item 7B. ZBA 009.16, proposed wireless communication facility, a portion of parcel 04-30-200-057, Seymour Lake Park, address 2795 Seymour Lake Road, Oxford, Michigan 48371. The subject parcel is zoned in an R recreational zoning district, south side of Seymour Lake Road, east of Baldwin, west of Coates within the Township of Oxford, Michigan. The applicant is New Par, a Delaware partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. Their address is 24242 Northwestern Highway, Southfield, Michigan 48075. The approval of this application as submitted would require a variance according to the zoning ordinance 67A, Article 5.32C5, wireless communication facilities. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If I may?
Yes.
I need to
So a little
interject.
housekeeping, sorry.
Just before we go to the applicant, as I sit on the planning commission, I don't vote on both items, so I'll be stepping out of this discussion. I just want to fill the board in. This did come through planning commission. You've got some of the information that was submitted to them. There was some federal regulation that prevents the planning commission from addressing certain concerns of the members of the audience, and that's written, in the minutes. The special land use was approved, and everything on this was approved, of course, pending the final decision of the ZBA for the actual location here. So with that, any questions on what happened there at planning commission?
Any questions from the board member? Was it unanimous vote? Was vote unanimous?
I believe it was. Was it unanimous?
Yes, it
Was the
was.
vote unanimous? I believe it was, yeah. I do believe it was. Okay, with that, I will step down.
It is based on the action of the ZBA.
Okay.
of grant.
With that, please.
Thank you very much. Kaylee gave you a very fine summary of it. My name is Jonathan Crane. I'm a civil engineer and an attorney. I practice in Rochester, Michigan, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Verizon Wireless. Our parent company is called Newpar, but we're Verizon Wireless, Verizon Cell Phones. And what we have proposed is to build a 195-foot monopole antenna in the park off of Seymour Lake Road, in the corner behind the baseball fields in an unused portion of the park area. Other than it being mowed, it is not being used by anything. Your ordinance requires a setback equal to the tower height, 195 feet. That is a very common ordinance throughout southeast Michigan. It's also a very old ordinance. It goes back to the post-World War II with big heavy guide towers that would fall over like this. The current design of the monopoles, and this will be a monopole structure, is that they buckle and they do not fall over. When they buckle, they relieve the wind loads, and the worst case scenario, they buckle over on themselves and collapse on themselves. I have personally been involved in more than 400 antennas in Michigan and northern Ohio, and there's never been a failure of one. That included one over in Illinois that I was not involved in its location, but I went over to see it because it took a direct hit from a tornado, and it tore up the antennas at the top, and they were found who knows where. But the actual monopole, we couldn't believe it. It was structurally intact, didn't fail at all. It was dropped down with a crane, the welds were inspected, and it was put back into service. They're designed to flex and move as wind loads are occurred, and they do not bend over or fall over like this. We gave you an appropriate structural letter to that effect, and we're asking for a variance to allow this to be set back 110 feet from the northerly property line and 110 feet from the westerly property line. The setbacks to the east and the south are huge, or 1,000 feet or so. But this is the two criteria. It's tucked in the corner. It's on city property. It's a site that was recommended and worked out with the Parks and Recreation Department. It meets the needs of Verizon Wireless, and it is designed for co-location and shared use as required in your zoning ordinance. We're for the record, we're 375 feet from the nearest house, but that's not, the criteria is the property line distance, and we do meet that at 110 feet. And we're asking for a variance of 85 feet plus. Thank you very much. I'll answer any questions you may have. We were approved unanimously by the Planning Commission for both preliminary and final site plan and special use approval, conditional upon receiving this appropriate variance. Thank you.
Questions from the board members?
Access to the tower, can you explain that, please?
Yes, sir. There's a parking lot that is shown on the site plan to the east of the site, and then we're putting in a single driveway into the site from the end of the parking lot. And it will also be gated for security purposes, locked and gated.
In your presentation, you said 375 feet. Is it 373 plus or minus?
My eyes are a little off. Yes, sir.
Sorry,
You're
Mr.
absolutely correct. I'm getting old.
I just want to make sure the record's
You're
correct.
absolutely correct. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board members? Thank you.
Thank you.
It is now 7:30. I will open up the floor for any sort of for the public hearing. So anyone from the public who has a comment, concern, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, if you'd be so kind.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, my name's Steve Drulard. I live at 2845 Seymour Lake Road. My wife Betty and I have owned the home there for 5 years. This home is the one that now will have the tower in our backyard. Currently, when you sit on our deck and you look out, you look over at the park. And now they're putting the tower in between our southern property line to the northern part of the baseball field. So for the rest of our lives, we have to stare at this 195-foot tower. And my concern is the value to the property, how it will be negatively impacted. And we've spent literally, for those that don't know it, this house had been deserted for almost 3 years. So when we bought it, we came in, put a lot of money and time to refurb it and bring it back to what we would call its glory days. And I'm not sure if any of you guys actually know what the house looks like or even where it's at.
I'm not aware of it, no.
It's a ranch.
If you go to the park entrance,
Yeah.
my house is immediately west of the park.
Yeah, I know where you're at.
Okay. I noticed that in the plans, there is no house there. It's just a cold-looking plan. But if you were to look, you would see a fairly refurbed home. And now we're at the point where we really don't want this tower as a neighbor. And we feel that in your zoning ordinance, under wireless communication facilities, 5.32, that there, and I can read the whole thing for you unless you guys have this memorized, but there are several portions of it that really address the impact on the neighborhood, the impact on property values, and pretty much the physical and aesthetic overcrowding of land use. And to me, that is a well-used portion of the park because of the baseball that's being played there. When teams aren't due up to play, they are in that section warming up and practicing. Another consideration is not only is it my house that's there, just to the west of me, my western neighbor is the Oxford Village condos. So you've got a whole bunch of condo people. Some people rent, a lot of them own, and they're being negatively impacted by this. And they're going to see that tower as well as me, and we guys are now stuck with this. Had my wife and I had any idea that this was going to happen to us, we would not have bought the property. And there's some talk that there aren't surveys out there showing that there's a negative impact on property. Although we did come up with one, it's not so much the survey that you need to read, it's the common sense that when someone goes to buy your house, like they'll pull in my driveway and they'll look up and they'll see that They won't even shut their car off. It'll be in reverse and out they go. We will struggle to sell this property. And then when we do go to sell it, because of the survey that we had read, we're going to lose 20 to 30% of the value of the home, making it hard for us to recoup the money that we've already put in. So we're asking that the variance be denied. We don't want to see this thing any closer to us than possible. And I understand that the base station of this is 2,500 square feet, which is like twice the size of my house. And I'm not sure, but I think because of the size of the base, that's what's pushing it toward my property line. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:35. We did, in our packet, receive the letter from the Planning Commission dated September the 22nd. This was approved as a site plan and special land use. So there are some certain criteria they have to meet, and again, this is the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we look at the weight of the variance of the distance dimensionally. So, any questions and comments from the board members at this time?
I had a question, I guess, in terms of noise. Do you expect any noise coming from the wind or any other environmental factors coming into the tower? Are these, I'm not maybe unaware of any noise, but maybe you can speak to that?
There are no guy wires, there are no exposed wires, there's no wind noise. It's not a wind turbine or anything with the big blades going or anything of that nature.
No, I understand.
It does not make any noise whatsoever. There is a, excuse me? There is a generator on the ground, and it's exercised weekly during daylight hours for approximately 20 minutes, just like a homeowner's generator. It's set typically for 1 day a week in the morning. In the event that there's a catastrophic power failure, it will be going constantly. We tell people that in that event, we're happy to have the noise. But
Excuse me, he's making his presentation. If you have a question, I can certainly answer it.
I've answered the question regarding noise. Is this going to be propane or natural gas? Or diesel?
I'm not sure.
I think it's diesel. I don't think it's restricted. I think it will be a diesel generator.
But the generator is rated at 65 decibels, measured 22 feet from the center of the generator.
Excuse me, sir, can I get your name and
excuse me.
the record,
Yeah,
please?
Bob.
To make the record clear.
I apologize. My name is Bob Frisbillo. I represent Verizon Wireless as a real estate specialist. There will be a generator on site. It's a 65 kW generator. It's measured at 65 decibels, and that's measured 22 feet from the center of the generator. So as you know, sound has an inverse square relationship, so as you double the distance, you cut the factor of sound by 4. So we will be at or below the township noise ordinance at the property lines. We can assure you of that.
Actually, it's less than a lawnmower.
Yeah, I mean, it's 60 decibels is rated at normal human conversation, as we're discussing now. So the generators have an extensive sound attenuation system to them to mitigate the noise factor.
The size of the physical enclosure, how big is that?
The compound, the fence compound.
Yeah, the fence compound is approximately 2,400 square feet. The actual equipment itself is our equipment cabinets that will sit on a concrete pad. It's an approximately, I'd have to look at the site plan, I think it's 10 by 12 concrete pad that the equipment cabinets will sit on. I can verify that. I'm sorry, it's a 12 by 20 concrete pad, and the equipment cabinets will sit on that pad. The equipment cabinet is essentially the size of a standard refrigerator for dimension purposes
So that's roughly 240 square feet.
for the concrete pad.
Inside a fenced area that's, what, 45
5 by
by
55.
55, so that's roughly 2,500 square feet.
Right,
That it does have landscaping around it, correct?
that is correct. As well as there is some existing vegetation to the west and to some extent to the north.
Any other questions from board members?
What's the diameter of the tower?
The tower base, approximately 4 feet. Caisson is 6 feet in diameter, and then actually the flange is 4 feet. And the base is, the tower itself is a little bit less than that.
The gate you mentioned, is that for the pad and the equipment? Yeah.
The pad and the equipment is fenced. We also have a gate on the driveway into the site
From the parking lot?
from the parking lot, so it doesn't become a problem with people after hours or anything.
And how often is that scheduled for preventative maintenance?
We tell people, after construction, it is visited once a month by a technician in a van-like vehicle. No semi-trucks or anything like that, cranes. There will be a crane there. It's a construction site. There'll be cement trucks, cranes there during construction. After that, it's a van-like vehicle that comes in once a month.
So why here?
Pardon?
So why does it have to be here? Why does it have to be in this location? Just curiosity, that's all.
No, we have done it's wireless cellular antennas, and you put one here, and you put one here, and you put one here, so you have them triangulated. We gave the coverage plots and we submitted them, I don't know whether you saw them. When you add, as you get your services, you have voids in the service. You add a cell site there, and that splits and offloads the other antennas. The locations, when we first started this in the early 80s, we had all kinds of latitude for locating. Now we are being given search areas that, what was this area, quarter mile maximum? 2/10 of a mile to locate the antenna, to meet the coverage needs and do the handoffs to the existing antennas. And this was virtually Bob did the search work on it, but the only site you could locate, right, and it met the ordinance, and it's on public land, which is encouraged by your ordinance. We worked very carefully with the city, or the township, to locate at this location. And we wanted to be northerly in the park. We could have gone over closer to the entranceway or something. That was a possibility. This is where it was located. But we wanted to be at the north end of the park along Seymour Road. And that's where we ended up. We worked very carefully with your city staff, your attorneys, your planners, to locate at this, and the Parks Department. They were consulted very early on in the whole project. And thank you.
And do you have any comment on the negative visual impact of the surrounding neighborhood or the community?
I've been doing this an awful long time. I've started in '79 with it, and change is different. I mean, it's change. There's no question. It's there, it's going to be 195 feet tall, and it's going to be seen. Just like at telephone poles, when they were put in down the streets and so on, and traffic signals and so on. I go to Orient Township to the south, where we came to a hearing where we went in K Industrial Park off of M24, south of Silver Bell Park. In the back, we went on an industrial piece of property that backed up on the neighbor to the north. It was the gentleman that had a barn with the trapeze. He had 11 children or something, and they had a trapeze in the barn. This and that. But very nice people. Same thing. How am I ever going to develop my property? What am I going to do? I'm going to get beat up on the prices and so on and so forth. Well, we were approved. That hearing, we had about 15 or 20 people come to the hearing, and same issues. We just don't want to look at it. It was built, it was approved. actually closer to the property line than this. About 4 years later or 5 years later, they developed the property immediately across the street with a multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars homes, very close to the site, same situation. It became the Homerama, it was featured, and so on. We've since then gone out and talked a couple of times to the different owners, the ones that were closest to our tower. I said, first question is, what tower? Oh, that tower. And I think it's a canard, the whole issue. I think it's a fear of change. I don't think it's going to adversely impact. Now, realtors, they're always speculating, what's going to happen and so on. I haven't seen any documentation. We've never had anybody call up and say, please take this tower down. It's ugly and I can't sell my property. That's the situation.
Can I ask you about the obsolescence of this equipment? How, and the second part of that would be, what would be the life expectancy of this tower?
We are doing designs, we're anticipating no substantial changes for 25 to 30 years. I mean, everybody says, why aren't you doing it with satellite? And it just isn't here yet at the technology. Not to say that some guy working in his garage is going to come up with the Henry Ford solution to it all.
True.
And then it'll all be obsolete. At that point, we are posting a bond with the city that requires us to remove it. But we see it 25 to 30 years. It's a major capital investment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other question, if you may.
Certainly.
In your experience, and you've done lots of these, percentage of them that you would require a variance for?
80%? Tomorrow night, I'm going to Green Oak Township for a variance.
Good luck.
Carlisle, Wortman, same firm. Same ordinance, same issue. 85%? It's a lot of them, most of them. And we are, actually, if you talk to the Carlisle Wortman folks, we are working with them and the state planning agencies to try and educate the public that maybe they should be amending their ordinances on some of these setback requirements. These towers are built. I mean, they are. The caisson goes down 30 feet in the ground. They're steel caged footings. Compared with a cedar pole power line that gets hit by car, I mean, these things are built. They do not fall down. But thank you.
Any other questions?
There's no option of lowering it to 110 to meet the setback?
No, it simply will not work. It will not meet the coverage requirements. We have a few feet at the top, 3-4 feet, something like that. We can monkey around with places, but we can't get it down that low. And the other issue is that the township wants co-locations, shared uses, rather than building 3 of them or 4 of them or something like that. And that's also meant with this. But no, taking it down to 150 feet will not work. 175 feet will not work. 189, 191, that's getting iffy. But we need the height. Thank you.
I had one other question for you in terms of the location. I know you did mention that this is basically one of the stricter, or one of the only locations that you can place this tower, correct?
This was the only property without a use variance, yes.
Okay. Just in the CWA comment, it basically says the applicant should confirm the co-location or construction of the attached communication facility is not feasible for the area of the township, or even if there's another location that would be better, or maybe another choice for this. I mean, if this is, I just want to see what your comment is on that, because I'm reading Kyle Wortman's.
We have looked at virtually every antenna and every tall structure, church spires, so on and so forth. There's nothing out there that will meet our needs, and we're on the adjacent towers nearby. We anticipate people will be coming on this tower very shortly, and the township does too.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Closed the public hearing.
He had a question.
What's that? I already closed the public hearing, but I'll indulge you for a question.
It concerns the co-location. At the last meeting, he was saying that as you get more antennas added on, I believe 3 more can be added on, they're not able to put their power equipment into your area, right? It's on them, place it elsewhere?
They're going to be placing it adjacent to our area, yes, sir.
So not in your yard, so to speak, not within that 55 by 45 area. They need their own area.
So then it starts to grow even more, and I'm the one that has to look at the additional, whatever it is they're gonna be putting up, the electrical components for this, because they're not allowed in your base station, right?
That is correct.
Please, no, please talk to him. Answer the question for me.
Yes, the answer is, they know they are not, the city or the township has it set up, the lease is set up so that they have to lease ground space from the township for their equipment that's going on our tower. And it was a revenue consideration, we went round and round with Mr. Rentrop and your supervisor on. They will be expanding the ground compound when they go locate this. We anticipate bumping the fence out another 10 feet, one way or the other.
So, but they'll be within that confines? They'll not be with side by side,
They will.
but they'll be within a compound?
No, they will be immediately adjacent to our compound.
Okay.
No,
And that's for each one.
each one, yes, sir.
So that means 3 more bumps going out.
Two.
That's correct, and that will be in the side yard setback of the ground-mounted equipment, yes.
Okay.
And if you look at the site plan, it was designed so that expansion would go south. As you can see, the towers would be
Let's go to the mic.
southern end.
Can you get you on the mic, please?
All right, if you look at the site plan, the site was designed with the monopole at the southern end of our compound so that any future carrier would expand to the south and not north towards the residential area, that they would go south into the park. So you can see that, I mean, obviously, they want to be close to the monopole, so the expansion design is to be to the south.
So they go towards the ball fields?
That's correct. That's correct. At least that's how the site is designed.
And how big are those units that will be added?
Typically, an addition would be like a 12 by 20.
So similar type structure or similar type pad you're gonna
Yes,
have?
that's correct. That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, one thing I did want to mention, Mr. Walters
Yeah.
is sitting on.
Come to the mic, please.
The other location could have easily been at the current maintenance building. And I know in the past that was a consideration, and that doesn't put you next to, like me, or the condos, it puts you next to the maintenance building. And if you ever, I don't know if you're familiar with that area, there's a lot of room for what he's planning on doing. And then getting all the co-locations, that's the more ideal spot. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and fight with them saying you can't have it, but it's not an ideal spot. And my wife and I feel like we're being punished for some reason because we have to stare at that and then the 3 other additions that are going on. And you know, that's not a thing of beauty, and I can't imagine it's actually gonna be shielded well. It's gonna be something that we're gonna be seeing for a long time. It's just like so industrial in a park. It's just outrageous. To us, it is anyway. That's all I have to say.
Fair enough, thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, to understand the function of this board is just solely from the perspective of a variance, of a dimensional variance. We're not the planning commission. That's not our role here. Our role is to look at, and I appreciate your comments, I really do. Moving on to our findings of fact. Pursuant to section 17.8C, in reviewing the request for a variance, the following standards for determining practical difficulty shall be considered, with no single factor being determinative. Strict compliance with restrictions governing area, setback, frontage, height, bulk, density, and other non-use manners will unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or render ordinance conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Board member comments? And I look at this and I understand how cell towers work and, why the ordinances were drafted. I have some familiarity with them. And Mr. Crane is correct. I mean, the old days you worried about it tipping over, and that's why you had such a large setback. These days they're designed to fall structurally and not fall over and hit properties. I mean, you are 375 feet from the closest resident, so home. I mean, there are other homes in the area, but obviously the people here this evening are the closest and the most impacted by it. It's 110 feet, another 95 feet. Does that?
85.
85 feet. I mean, I'm not necessarily, at the end of the day, it's going to be there. In the way I look at this. If it meets ordinance requirement, they're not here. So it does another 85 feet. It doesn't solve the issue of it being there. It would be there. Yes, 85 feet would be great, but obviously with the configuration of the ball fields, there were some negotiations, obviously, with the township. Officials were getting where this wanted to be, where they want it in their park. So it has something to do with it. But I can't figure out if 85 feet is really it still would be there at the end of the day. Any other comments?
No, I would agree with you. The height is the only concern, or the only setback. I mean, if they could drop it down to the height, the tower's still gonna be there.
Any other comments?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Wait, no, I had a
Sorry.
comment. The minimum setback for all property lines is proposed at 110, right?
Correct.
It's required at 195.
Correct.
So the variance is the maximum height. Is that what you're suggesting?
So the variance would be for an additional
85 feet. The ordinance says it has to be set back from,
because the tower is 110
Nine.
from a property line, and it's supposed to be 195 from the property
there
line.
is-
195,
yes.
okay, because this chart is incorrect then? Okay. Must be set back at least 195.
Yes.
You're
Required.
proposing
110.
110
Correct. So there's an 85-foot
on both the north and the west property
Yes.
lines.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
So regardless of this variance or not, it's going to be there, what you're at,
Well, if they could put it on 195 feet and poke it down there, they wouldn't be in front of us.
And then you can even get into what, with Kyle Wortman's statement of the aesthetics, which is important with minimizing.
Page is that 5?
Well, they are, if you look at the plan, they are providing vegetation about it.
Correct.
They are putting in,
It's obscured with new and existing trees.
they are putting in 17 Colorado spruces around the periphery. I mean, there are conditions we can impose upon it if we choose to do so.
And then the planning commission would discuss whether the applicant should explore use of stealth design of the tower.
Well,
which-
planning commission's already,
Yes.
planning commission's already ruled on this.
Yep.
I guess one question I have is, how are they gonna get 3 more buildings to the south of that without getting into the ball fields?
Could you repeat that? I'm not hearing that real well down here.
There's gonna be, 3 more structures added behind this? How will those be added without getting into the ball fields?
Well, it appears to be some room.
And there's some room there.
I mean,
Because here's your line for the the fence for the ball field.
Yeah, and that's,
You're gonna put 3 more,
for our purposes, that doesn't,
that's, yeah.
it probably ends up going, the one's going south, and then the other one's probably going south and west, because the ball field arc comes this way. So I think they're gonna have to stagger it. It's the only way they can get that done. And I do like the fact they are, any future plans do go to the south.
I do find it interesting that Kyle Workman says the addition of the wireless communication facility could be viewed as an improvement, as it will provide additional cell phone service to residents and visitors and will not change the essential character of the area. I understand that that's their view, but they
Yeah.
don't live in Oxford either. They're
No.
not living in this gentleman's
They aren't.
residence.
No, they are not. That's correct. Okay, moving on. The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the other property owners. Board, more comments? Of course, it will provide, to the applicant, they'll be able to build a cell tower.
Absolutely.
I mean, looking at it from the context of what you just said about, service, that provides some justice to others, but, I mean, the one property owner will be affected by it.
And no one's here from the apartment complex.
No, and there are other
They were all
residents to the
notified.
west that were also notified too.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Those residents.
I'm sorry, sir, hey, close the public hearing. Moving on, the need for the variance is due to unique and peculiar circumstances of the property and not generally applicable to the area or to other properties in the same zoning district.
I don't think that applies based on their location that they chose for the tower. There's a lot of other areas in that park that they may have the option for, but this is the choice that's brought upon by the applicant.
Mr. Bailey?
I would agree with that.
From what I understand, other locations in this property were looked at too. I mean, this has kind of been a long-going issue, over the last several months. And I think they were looked at, and, they've had complaints about service areas too. And I think what they're saying to justify, it's the service areas, even the, I believe it was our undersheriff that said that he didn't always connect when he was driving down that road to work back in there. There's like a dead area back in there. We all want cell phones. Everybody wants a cell phone. They don't want to look at, and I understand that. And, it's come up over the years for different places. And it used to be a big deal. Oh, no, they're going to build a cell phone tower. And like you said, it was the big towers and,
Yeah.
and we all lived through it, but it was a bigger thing. But everybody wants a cell phone. Then they're complaining that they don't have the service. And I believe that's probably, what he meant too in that letter was more for the service.
And I agree, Sue, because I lost my cell phone coverage running down there.
There's a spot there,
Yeah.
and, I've heard complaints over the years, and, it's not a good complaint if there's something serious going on back in there. But I agree with, the homeowners too. I mean, I understand that situation. Certainly over the years, I've heard, nobody wanted the water tower in Red Barn, that they have to look at forever and ever. And that was a big issue, but you have to have water, and it's just some things that you just do. But I believe for the park, other areas were looked at and not to the best interest of the service, or there was, some other things that were going on. If we're gonna build it and we're gonna have to look at it somewhere, I hope that we'll have the best place for the best service and not have to build another one somewhere close.
Right.
So it's really not the uniqueness of the property itself, it's the uniqueness of the service that,
I would
The
think so.
unique location it has to go.
Moving on, the problem and the resulting need for the variance has not been self-created by the applicant or the applicant's predecessors. Does that apply or not apply?
I'm having trouble having any of these apply or not apply myself.
Right.
Because it's not a situation, it's not like a house addition or something. It's a unique situation that these standards definitely weren't written for.
Right. They weren't. They were written for a
Right.
long time ago for different types of tower
Right.
uses. They are a little bit outdated. in
For
that
this
regard.
particular thing. And
For this particular one, I would agree. Any other board member comments? Mr. Bailey, Mr. Walters?
No?
I just say it doesn't apply based on the unique circumstances particular to the property and not generally applicable to that area.
Yeah, no,
It's
again,
not really, again, it's a property thing, it's more of where that location could be for that service that they want to provide.
correct. And I go back to looking at it again, what would another 85 feet do?
Right.
It's still gonna be there. I mean, it would still be there. Does 85 feet make that much of a difference? You know, I understand. It's someone's backyard. It's not in my backyard. It's easy for me to say that. But again, it's unique to the property because of the fact that the service has to be in a certain location to provide that backbone that they're looking for. So, moving on to a motion. Do we have a motion? Anybody care to take that on?
I think you should take it on.
Gee, thanks.
You think you can just run the meeting and
Yeah, I know, I know. All right, I make a motion, ZBA matter ZBA 009.16, proposed wireless communication facility portion of parcel 0430-200-057 Seymour Lake Park, address 2795 Seymour Lake Road, Oxford, Michigan 48371, that a variance be granted in distance of 85 feet for setback pursuant to our findings of fact and discussion.
A variance of an additional 85 feet, or?
A variance of 85 feet to allow for the tower to be constructed 110 feet from the adjacent property lines. I'll amend my motion.
I'd second that.
Motion been seconded. Oh, we don't have a secretary, so that's
Did you
great.
state north and west? Or did you want to amend that?
I said from the property lines.
Okay.
Any conditions we wish to place upon that?
I don't have any. I think that the planning commission has seen for, for
Yeah.
the, what do you call it?
Well, the special land use, there's certain criteria they have to go through.
Criteria for
Right.
the trees or
Right.
or whatever.
I think they did a fairly decent
I
job
think
with
that's
that.
the only thing. We're not going to cover up a tower. I don't-
No, we're not gonna be able to, sure.
I'd like you to evaluate restriction on the north and the west side as the setback property line,
Not following.
as a strict compliance to that. The 110 feet applies to the north and west property lines as a setback, not the east and the south, obviously, right?
Right. So you want me to amend my motion? To
Yeah.
reflect that it is from the north, that the 110 feet is measured from the north property line and from the west property line? Care to second that, continue?
I'd
Continue that?
continue the second.
Okay. Any other discussion? In the absence of a secretary, what do we do for roll call?
I could do it if it's.
You're the vice, so yeah. Okay.
All right, roll, Bailey,
Yes.
Bellairs,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
and Rosner abstain, right? And Walters, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Moving on, meeting schedule in your packet. There was the 2017 meeting schedule proposed.
I'll move to approve the proposed 2017 meeting schedule as written.
Support?
I'll second that.
Second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to item number 8, board member comments. Any comments?
It's freezing in here.
I think the only comment I have,
I think I'm wearing a jacket,
in the
right?
very beginning, when we were doing the agenda,
Yeah.
and then Callie wanted to amend, put something in there, and then we agreed on it, but I thought we were agreeing on that and not on the agenda itself.
I approved the agenda with that
No, it was,
I just didn't hear that in the beginning, because you were just you wanted something in there.
No, not on the agenda.
it was on the minutes,
On the minutes.
on the minutes.
And, oh, yeah,
The agenda
I meant on the
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
But then when we, but you did, was your motion start out
motion-
with, I approve? I don't think it did.
I thought my
but maybe
motion
it
was,
did.
I
Maybe it
moved to approve the agenda with this modification, with the addition
Yeah, I
of.
think,
Okay, I just don't remember that, but maybe
I
Deanna
wouldn't put money on it, but.
Deanna says no. I mean,
No?
all of a sudden, because when I was voting yes when the approval, I was approving what you said. I was agreeing
Agree,
with
yeah.
that. And it's being done, and I wasn't positive we approved the minutes.
well, I thought we had,
Well,
my
it
mistake.
wasn't that big of a deal.
That was my
But no, it's good to know. Any other comments? A motion for adjournment is in order.
I'll make a
moved.
motion that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
It's really.